Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm with Deanna Baumgardner, who has been a friend, a colleague, probably for 12, 13 years?
Yeah, at least.
Wanted to give you opportunity to tell us about where your business is, and I know you have a new venture. So with that, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I have been up here in Charlotte about 16 years. From Florida. I moved up from Florida, and when I moved up, it was, in the middle of that recession, and I didn't have a job. There were no jobs to be had. It took forever. And then when I finally did get a job, I was like, no, I don't want to do this anymore.
What did you do? What was your job?
Well, I was in, corporate HR. I was a director of HR, and but I had been out of work for so long, and I was just doing odd jobs here and there, because I needed to make money. And then once I did get a job at a company here in Charlotte, a medium-sized firm, I was their director of HR. And it was a great company, but I just realized I didn't want to be an employee anymore. And I just started doing a bunch of research and figuring out how to launch my own HR firm because I really, really had a passion for small businesses. And I wanted to focus on those small businesses that don't have, the resources or the need for a full HR function, but they still need the support. So while I was working full time, I launched Employers Advantage, and 15 years later, here we are. And then the guy that owned the company I was at was so great, and he's an entrepreneur himself, and he let me work part time for a full year while I built Employers Advantage, continued to build Employers Advantage. So it gave me a nice runway. And then at some point I realized I was still comfortable with the income in a part-time capacity, and I forced myself to quit so that I would have to basically, hunt for my own, dinner kind of a thing. And, I started Employers Advantage back in August of 2010, but I did it luckily with a full-time job and then went down to part-time and then was able to take myself out altogether.
It's 15 years later.
Yeah.
Hindsight 2020, Deanna of 15 years ago. Would you do anything differently in how you started it?
I think about this a lot, and it's hard to say because everything that I did is how I got here. And so I don't really know what I would do differently because I also went into a lot of it completely blind. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to start a business. I just used what I had learned from watching the leaders and the business owners that I admired in my roles in corporate HR. And I knew what I wanted, but also I knew what I didn't want. And so I guess the biggest thing I would probably say is I wish I would have managed my expectations of myself and my, in a startup capacity a little bit better. Because you put so much pressure on yourself and you feel like you have to launch.
So you would have, let me just make sure I get it. You would have kind of lowered the expectations of what to expect that first month, year, et cetera, right? And not been as like, what am I doing wrong?
Right, exactly. Okay. And like feeling like I had to be connected 24/7 or I was going to miss out on, the next big break. Like you have to have balance. And, I'm in a startup now, another business, and I'm really mindful of that because, a startup and the mental health impacts are no joke. So that's the one thing that I would have learned and would go back and maybe do a little differently. So the new business is called Alone Space. It is completely unrelated to HR. It's unrelated to anything I've ever done. I've done B2B. Obviously an Employers Advantage for 15 years, and I know that like the back of my hand, and now I'm in a B2C capacity. But it's a different form of wellness. It was the wellness that I needed and couldn't find. So I created it.
Okay.
Basically, it's a space that it feels like the comfort of home outside of your home. And I came up with it during COVID, during 2020. Everybody's kind of locked in their houses. You're with all your people 24/7.
All your people that you were accustomed to seeing 25% of the time.
Exactly.
Now, yeah.
and you couldn't really go anywhere. So I need alone time. I need a different environment. One, as a business owner, for, you know, processing thoughts and opening my mind and coming up with new ideas, but also to recharge. You know, I need my own space. So that's what I designed, is a room that's outside of the traditional wellness scope. So nothing against like sound baths and, you know, yoga and meditation. That stuff doesn't work for me. I tried it. I forced it. And I was like, talked myself into it. Like, oh, this is great. But it wasn't, because I thought it was supposed to be, but it didn't work for me. So I created what does work for me. Hopefully it works for other people too.
So where can they find, where can people find that business? How do they learn more about it?
Well, alonespace.com is the website. It is in Cornelius, up in Lake Norman. If anybody's familiar with that area, it's West Catawba and Westmoreland, right there at that intersection. I have a room inside an office building in there, just starting out with one room, just to get some, you know, testing and proof of concept kind of stuff. But the feedback so far has been really great. I mean, I go in there all the time. I use it myself, and I live alone still. But you have to get out of your environment, because when you're sitting at home, you're looking at the lawn and the dishes and the laundry, and there's kids and there's dogs. And
if you're an entrepreneur, you're always checking, did that proposal hit?
Right.
Or is there someone who, you know, how's that LinkedIn profile looking? And I'm 15 years into it myself, almost 12 years into my own business. And it's so difficult to say on Saturday and Sundays I don't work, and this type of a proposal I say no to, because I still have those scrappiness from the every proposal, the networking and every relationship, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's just a way to take a pause, drown out all of the stuff that we're consuming every day on our phones and TVs and computers, and I mean, just all that stuff. Because even in the room, I have a Faraday box, which is one of those boxes where you put your phone in it, and it blocks all transmission. So if you're wearing a smartwatch, you won't get any notifications or distractions.
My son is 19, and one day I was texting him, and I was asking him about school. He's a sophomore in college. And he goes, Mom, I'm locked in. I'm going to paraphrase it and probably get it completely wrong. But the concept of locked in is there's one more quarter, typically, like around September. September happens and it's one more quarter, and you are going to lock in and then nail all of the remaining goals that you had for your for the year.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so it's this whole concept of what are you going to do? What are you going to say no to? What are you going to say yes to? What are you going to, this is the clinical way of doing it, right? And figure out, like, what's the bang for the buck, and how do I talk to my boss and make sure I get the priority. So anyway, in that vein, what are you locked in for the rest of 2025?
Well, I can tell you personally, I have locked in on, I know we were just talking about this, but my health and my fitness goals, because things always fall off in the holidays, right?
Right.
And I don't want to lose sight of that. It's so easy to lose sight of that when it gets cold, because I go out and run and I do walks and stuff outside.
It's not as fun when it's 27 degrees.
No, it's not. But when you force yourself to do it when it's 27 degrees, it's so much more rewarding.
Oh.
But then, of course, all the food and the drinks and the parties, and you just, you have to lock in on your goal and stay focused in that. And then, of course, in the business and on the employer's advantage side, we have very specific, client satisfaction goals, and of course revenue and profit and all that. And we're really honing in on that in that fourth quarter. We brought in a fractional CFO that's been a game changer over the last few months, and he's helping us stay focused. And then with the startup, with the loan space, I mean, I'm really just trying to spread the word at this point and get awareness around the space and another form of wellness. So that's, I guess, would be my locked in.
No, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the new notebook, the new pen, and you write down the goals, right?
Yes.
And it's a little bit fresh. CFO out of all the things, that you can invest into. What made you decide that?
Well, two reasons. One, I feel like that's one of my weaker areas. And so, just in general, it makes sense to find somebody to help support you in the areas that you might not be as strong in your business. And two, I really wanted to catapult some growth. I felt like we had been stagnant for a couple years, and I wanted to get a growth strategy in place for the team and to be able to grow and help more small businesses and, be able to bring in new opportunities for my employees. And so it just seemed like that was the right thing to do, and it has really paid dividends on the investment that we put into him. His name is Drew, and he's like just an extension of our team and is really focused on our best interests and balancing, driving revenue and not being too salesy and creepy, building relationships and different strategies of how do we bring in different forms of revenue rather than just focusing on new client business. So we have a whole strategy that we're focused on, and we're really, like you were saying before, locked in on Q4 and hitting some very specific goals, and we're on target. So it's been great.
So it sounds like for two things. Like, first of all, you got to recognize what are you not the strongest in, and if that were to be freed up, you could work less in the business and on the business.
Yeah.
And I think that's tough for people. They do it I know some people who outsource everything, and I right, they're like, oh, my valuable time is over here. And I think you can really get into trouble if you right off the bat.
Yes.
Right? I outsource my website management. I outsource. I have a virtual assistant answering my emails. I have someone writing my proposals, and I'm always in awe of them. I'm like, wow, that's wonderful. I hope you're using that time actually to work in strategy, because you do have to keep an eye on anything that you outsource or give or delegate right.
Yeah. I mean, when I built Employers Advantage, and I did everything myself. I didn't outsource until way, way, way later. Some of the marketing stuff, of course, I did, and then here and there some accounting, but I wanted to build it, and I want to know what's happening, and I want to have, a handle on clients and referral partners and everything that's happening. Like, I don't know, maybe it's a control thing, but I just feel like I wanted to know and build everything. And so when I was bringing folks in and building the company, I could pass it on, and at any time I can jump back into the business and take over again. Because right now, so 2 years ago, I restructured to take myself out of the day-to-day so that I could do a loan space. And that's been great. So I am more focused solely on strategy. I have really great team members that are running the day-to-day. And then along with the fractional CFO, it's like, I feel like I'm living the dream.
Talk about the two businesses. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so the first one, of course, Employers Advantage. EmployersAdvantageLLC.com is for outsourced HR for small companies, typically less than 50 employees. We provide the fractional HR support. And then the complete opposite side, a loan space at alonespace.com. Of course, we're on all the socials, Instagram and Facebook, and LinkedIn for both of the companies, or, my personal LinkedIn at Deanna Baumgardner.
I would imagine that when you have a job posting, you have a pretty good demand.
We do, and we also get a lot of unsolicited resumes. I'm not a crier, right? And so on our 15th anniversary, we do use a outsourced marketing firm for all of our graphics, and she made this video for me.
I saw it. It was wonderful.
She sent it to me. She goes, I hope this makes you cry.
No, everybody looks so happy and joyful and like secure and, safe. And it was almost like a high school reunion kind of feel. You do great with marketing.
Thank you.
Everything from your headshots, all your social media, it's quiet. It's not that often, but it's always so professionally done.
Thanh you. Yeah.
You look bigger than you are. The business looks bigger than you are.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's funny because that's, a little lesson that, somebody had told me early on was, present as, bigger than you are, especially when you're starting out. So
yeah, we are going to wrap it up here.
Okay.
Thank you for being interview number 2.